Hello, friends. hmm I was testing the microphone and it's working. That's good. Okay. So, welcome, friends, enemies, strangers, kind mothers. Who else? Holy being, holy beings. Welcome, Jesus. Welcome, Buddha. Welcome, Satan. Welcome, everyone. All spirits. Mm, clean and unclean. But in essence, all spirits are clean. It's just wait in meditation. Let the unclean particles settle down to the bottom. Then you have clear view. You have to you have to just take some time to go into deep meditation, into deep sleep meditation, and then wake up and think clearly because there's nothing in the way that will obstruct your view. So we have perfect view now that we have woken up or are waking up. Mm. So I was reading uh, the King James Version, the fifth chapter of the first book in the New Testament, the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 5, where it starts off by saying, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. I'm noticing that are is italicized. I think it's italicized. It looks like it's leaning a little to the right. The A, R, E in R are leaning a little to the right consistently through. Oh, no, wait. There's one. Verse 11, it says, blessed are ye. It's not italicized. The ARE is not italicized. Oh, but men is italicized and you is italicized. Well, one of them. So it's inconsistent. So maybe it's a typo. I don't know. Hmm. Um, so I had hmm, I had found a book. Hmm. I found a book that had fallen behind my bed, and I found it this morning. Here it is. What is in the Bible? By R.C. Sproul and Robert Wohlgemuth. So, let's see. who who is R.C. Sproul? Sproul. He's a chairman and president of Ligonier Ministries, an organization that provides biblical and theological training for lay people. He has served as a professor at Reformed Theological Seminary, Knox Seminary, Westminster Seminary, California, and Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary. The author of many books on the Bible and Christian doctrine, including the award-winning The Holiness of God. He also hosts the national radio program Renewing Your Mind. Oh, this book is published in Nashville. And his co-author, Robert Wohlgemuth, is a popular lay Bible teacher, speaker, and best-selling author. His books include She Calls Me Daddy, Daddy at Work, and the notes to the devotional Bible for Dads. A veteran publishing industry executive, he has taught the material in What's in the Bible to Sunday school classes for over 30 years. Oh, okay. So let's see what these guys have to say about uh, the New Testament. Mm, at least the four Gospels. Oh, this might help me understand uh, some interesting ideas. There's a chapter 11 the preparation for the coming Messiah. The intertestamental period, followed by John the Baptist, the birth of Jesus, the early years of Jesus' life. Okay, now the intertestamental period. Oh, that's interesting. Intertestamental period. That's the period between the Old Testament and the New Testament. What was going on? When you attend a stage play, something happens between scenes that gives the production director and stage hands enough time to rearrange the set for the next act. The curtain closes. You sit quietly for a few minutes, knowing that the movement in rearrangement of the sets and props and actors will be important for the next portion of the play. The Old Testament period has finished. The sound of Malachi's voice delivering his final prophecy has faded into silence. And then, because this act was completed, the curtain dropped. The stage needed to be prepared for the next of God's visible activities. But unlike the plays you and I have seen, where the curtain is closed for a couple of minutes, this time the patrons sat in the audience for a long time, waiting for the next scene to unfold. In fact, this was even longer than a 30-minute intermission. For the story of the Israelites, God's chosen people, the curtain remained closed for 400 years, 4 centuries of rearrangement in preparation for the greatest drama in human history. But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth his son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. Galatians. So the pleroma, the fullness of time, tells us that the stage was being set for the coming of Jesus. This was going to be the focal point of history. He came at the right time, the perfect instant, fulfilling all the prophecies in one moment in time. God's plan of redemption was about to come to pass. Mm. Alexander the Great? Wait a minute. That's not a character in the Bible. What's up with that? Okay, Alexander the Great. That's what it says. Just because the curtain was closed does not mean that this period of time was insignificant. Following Nehemiah's, that's Nehemiah, Nehemiah's reconstruction of the walls in 445 BC, the Medo Persians controlled Jerusalem for 100 more years. But in 331 BC, the Medo Persians were conquered by Alexander the Great's Greek Empire. So the story of Alexander is fascinating. With memories of men like the youthful King David and King Josiah, Alexander was putting the finishing touches on his conquest of the Persian Empire when he was only 24 years old. Damn, that's pretty young. But when I was real young, reading about Alexander the Great, and I read that he was 24 years old, I would be saying or thinking to myself, man, that guy was old. Okay, what happens next? Okay. Prior to Alexander's reign, the three titans of Greek civilization had profoundly shaped the thinking of this soon to be dominant force in the world. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And the most famous pupil of Aristotle was a young man named Alexander. He was not known as a thinker or a philosopher, but as a strategic military genius. He did those studies fit? No. How did those studies fit into Alexander's gift? As a teacher, Aristotle searched for a unifying system of knowledge. He searched for scientific and philosophical unity. He and his students wrestled with the coalescence of multiple ideas and complex theories into one cogent way of thinking. As Alexander studied, he dreamed of creating that same kind of unity militarily and politically. If diverse schools of thought can be organized into a singular dominant system, then peoples and lands can be unified, can be similarly unified. So Alexander the Great was the first globalist. Mm, If if you think of globalism as a way of unifying everyone, mm, um, mm, so Alexander did both. Did both what? He he did both. What are the both? He conquered with his forces, and he conquered with the philosophies of his master. He did. So thoroughly did Alexander saturate surrounding kingdoms with Greek culture. Culture. That's a word that has come to my awareness. What is a culture? Mm. So, what is Greek culture? What was Greek culture at that time? What was it in Greek culture that inspired uh, Alexander to go out and conquer, and then not just leave it at that, to expand Greek culture to those lands? Hmm. We have a special word for that, for what he did. Hellenize. Was it the earliest form of colonization? Alexander unified the known world in a way that Aristotle was unable to do with ideas alone. But his impact on the world was not simply that of a master soldier. He was also a great evangelist for the Greek worldview. Alexander commanded that the people speak Greek, think Greek, write Greek, and live Greek. So pervasive and so successful were Alexander's efforts that more than 3 centuries later, when the text of the New Testament was penned mostly by Hebrews, it was written in Greek. Although, as I said, the curtain was closed on our understanding of what was happening among God's people. We can certainly imagine how the remnant of devout Jews must have fought against the pervasiveness of Greek thinking. In their conquests, the Greeks have co-opted the pagan gods of Egypt, Asia Minor, and Persia, and given them new names because these gods promised immortality. They were far more appealing to the Greeks. So, right along with taking possession of the lands and peoples, they assumed the ownership of the gods as well. In order to avoid confusion, they gave these new gods the names of their old ones. Their religion was a come one, come all, the more the merrier religion. If you've got the time, we've got the God. During the ministry of the Apostle Paul in Athens, the Greeks' capital city, we discovered that the Greeks had even erected a massive altar with the inscription to the unknown God. With their multi deity philosophy, they just couldn't be too careful. A special altar to a spare God just in case of an unforeseen emergency when they might need another. In addition to having many gods, renewed interest in astrology during this time led to widespread belief that the planets govern the lives and destinies of human beings. Can you imagine how faithful Israelites, the truly devout ones, must have been utterly scandalized by this? It was horrific enough to have been batted around like chattel for generations among pagan kingdoms that claimed raw hedonism as their god. But now their conquerors were challenging the purity, the essence of who they were and what they believed by filling the skies with false deities. No wonder the Israelites were ready for a savior. Then there's Ptolem, the Ptolemies and the Seleucids. Mm. And then there's Judas Maccabeus. And then John the Baptist appeared. Then the birth of Jesus. I could read on. Hmm. Let's see. Joseph, virgin birth, the Gospels. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels are four different eyewitness accounts of the life of Jesus. But modern scholars, or some scholars, say that they weren't eyewitness accounts. Unless they were written written down as reports of actual eyewitness accounts and put together each, and the head author of each one, the name of that one who put it all together became the name of that particular gospel. So now we're reading about Matthew first, and let's see what this book says about Matthew. Although, no, as a tax collector, Matthew was concerned with the credibility of the Messiah from a historical perspective. His gospel is filled with references to Old Testament prophecy. In fact, Matthew begins his story by describing Jesus' family tree, straight from the tribe of Judah and house of King David. Except there's still a troubling issue with this. It breaks. Why didn't they give the genealogy of Mary? They're giving the genealogy. Is it that the right word, genealogy, or the generations? The family tree. Why didn't they discuss the family tree of Mary? They discussed the family tree of Joseph, and there's no connection between Jesus and Joseph. If it is correct to say that Joseph is not the father of Jesus, that Jesus has the DNA of God who are in heaven, the Father. Maybe this God is an alien creature that came down from the heavens. That's kind of like Mormon idea. Okay. Anyway, his gospel is filled with references to Old Testament prophecy. In fact, Matthew begins his story by describing Jesus' family tree, but did not include Mary, his mother's side. So we'll never know that. Huh. So it's interesting that the family tree only mentions the name of the men. Is there something extraordinary in following the men? All the men have possessions, so that's what that involves inheritance, perhaps. What about intelligence? Are they suggesting that the women don't contribute to the intelligence? So they failed. There's a lot not there. Like so each parent has their set of parents. So it's binary. So it explodes fast. You know, like that story about the invention of the game of chess, where the king awarded the inventor with whatever the inventor wanted. So the inventor asked, "Oh, just 1 grain of rice or whatever grain he asked for." For start with 1 grain and then double it the following square, and then double it, and so on. Double it each time. Oh, that's cool. I would double it. Okay, double it. 1 becomes 2. Okay, we got 3 grains. No big deal. Okay, then the next square on the board. There's 64 squares, so it goes from 1, 2, 4, and so on. So the next one after 4 is 8. The next one after 8 is 16. 16 grains of rice or whatever grain he chose. So it's just doubling every time. So 16, 32, that's manageable. 64, 128, 256, 512. It's still not bad. It fit in a bag. 1024. Is that right? Yeah. And so on. It is it what's that? Is that called an arithmetic progression? Well, I know it's called a power of two. So two to the tenth is pretty big, isn't it? Two to the tenth is two to the fifth times two to the fifth, isn't it? Two to the fourth. Two times two is four. Times two is four. Four times four is 16. Two to the fourth is 16. Two to the fifth is 32. Two to the sixth is 64. Two to the seventh is 1024. Uh, see it. What is two to the tenth? It's is it a megabyte? Let's see. Two two to the power 10. It's only 1024. So what is 2 to the power 64? Holy shit. It's 1.8446744 exponential 19. 19. What is 264 called? It's pronounced 18 quintillion. 446 quadrillion. 744 trillion. 73 billion. 709,551,616. Whew, man, that exploded pretty big. It put the I think it was probably affecting the king earlier than that, much earlier. When would it start affecting the king? Let's see. Let's see. 2 to the power 32. 2 to the power 32 is ooh, ooh, ooh. I think it's 4 billion. 4 billion something. I wonder if that would start to worry the king. Let's see. The story the story about the invention of chess. Is it like that? Legend has it that chess was invented around 200 BC by a commander, Han Xin. Han Xin, that's Chinese, who invented the game as a battle simulator. Soon after winning the battle, the game was forgotten, but it resurrected in the 7th century. For the Chinese, chess was invented by the mythical emperor Shennong or by his successor, Huang Di. Hmm. Chess, as we know it today, was born out of the Indian game Chaturanga before 600 AD. The game spread throughout Asia and over the coming centuries and eventually evolved into what we know as chess around the 16th century. One of the first masters of the game was a Spanish priest named Rui Lopez. No, but where's the story how chess? The story about the the king who awarded the king who awarded the inventor of chess. Okay. Hmm. Ah, okay, here's one story that's probably the story I'm referring to. The chess history and an intriguing ancient legend. The history of the popular game of chess of the game of kings is highly debatable. There are numerous stories, legends, and guesses related to how chess originated. According to one of those interesting ancient legends, chess was invented by Grand Vizier Sisa ben Dahir and gifted to the Indian king Sirham, also known as Shahram. Delighted by the gift, the king offered to reward him with anything he wanted, provided that it was reasonable. The Grand Vizier requested just one wheat grain on the first square of the chessboard, followed by two on the second square, four on the third, and continue to double the number on the successive squares until all squares on the chessboard are filled. Underestimating the request of the Grand Vizier, King Shahram laughed at the request of the small gift and instantly asked someone to calculate how many wheat grains would be required. It took a week to arrive at the number, which shocked the king. A week? Yeah, they didn't have calculators back then, so they had abacus, maybe. Hmm. The average number of grains that would fill up all the squares as per the vizier's request came to 18. The average number of grains? Or is that the final square? Hmm. Maybe 18, and then there's a comma, 446, comma, 744, comma, 073, comma, 709, comma, 551, comma, 615. Let's see. How many are there? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Yeah, 18 to the power 18 grains, which were equal to the harvest of several decades for the whole world. Mm, mm. I don't know how they came up with that number as being the average. The average number of grains that would fill up all the squares. Hmm. The average would be the sum of all the squares divided by 64. Hmm. I'd have to get my calculator and figure that one out. But I know that, let's say that if the final square contained 18 to the power 18 times 10 to the 19th, the one before it would be half that, and before that one half, but you have to add them all together. But you know that maybe the first three final squares is the majority of the amount, and then divide that by 64. You're supposed to supposedly come up with that number. Hmm. Two two to the power. What would it be? 2 to the power 64, right? Hmm. Anyway, going back to where is that? Uh, hmm. Yes, this talks about the four authors of the four gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. What they did for a living. So Matthew was a tax collector. Mark was a young man when Jesus walked in Palestine. His gospel is filled with the emotion and passion of the events he saw, the kind of excitement you'd expect for a young person. Interestingly enough, Mark does not even mention Jesus' nativity. Most young men aren't interested in the details of a woman's pregnancy. Luke is a physician. Predictably, the conceptions and births of both John the Baptist and Jesus are delivered to us in some detail. Luke is the only book that even mentions Jesus as a young man. Is that John is a disciple? His writing is theological and topical. Jesus in the temple. Mm. Mm. John the Baptist, the rest of the baptism and the temptation of Jesus. Okay, so maybe that's hmm. I'm looking for maybe the Sermon on the Mount. Oh, here isn't the Sermon on the Mount where he says, "Blessed are the this and that." Sermon on the Mount. C.S. Lewis wrote that anyone who reads the Sermon on the Mount and is not filled with fear does not understand what Jesus was saying. The reason for this wise commentary is that Lewis understood the sermon's context. Like Old Testament speeches given by Elijah, Isaiah, or Jeremiah, the blessings and warnings of this oracle were prophetic. Jesus had just said that his mission was to heal the broken, bring freedom to the prisoners, and sight to the blind. He had resolutely identified himself as the one promised through Isaiah. The location of this presentation was the Mount of Olives. A crowd had gathered around Jesus, who was, as Matthew reported, becoming quite famous in the region and beyond. The people were expectant, miracles, a flash of power. The third, hmm. First, Jesus used the literary device of the prophetic oracle, a series of divine pronouncements of God's blessings upon those who demonstrate a certain attitude. The rewards to those who obey Jesus' words are deeper than happiness and more significant than joy. Those faithful to the Messiah's admonitions could consider themselves blessed. Being given a heavenly benediction from God Himself. This was no ordinary sermon. This was a transcendent event that penetrated the hearer's souls with the eternal pleasure of God. The message Jesus gave was filled with irony, the topsy-turvy announcement of his kingdom's values. Under normal circumstances, those who rejoice are blessed. Those who are rich throw the parties, but not in this kingdom. Usually those who are oppressed and beaten down remain so, but not where Jesus is king. In this special place, the blind see, the deaf hear, and the poor receive good news. And their suffering and pain brings them blessings. When you are maligned, despised, or even persecuted for righteousness' sake, Jesus said, you are blessed. So he tells the crowd gathered on the hillside, rejoice and be very glad, for great is your reward in heaven. God's blessing gave the people a future heavenly hope, but it was also in the present, the here and now. Imagine the impact Jesus' words on those who listen. For centuries, liberal scholars have desperately attempted to turn Jesus into a happy humanist who, while saying an occasional odd thing, basically wanted everyone to just get along and love one another unconditionally. According to these folks, the impact of Jesus was not his atonement for our sins or his resurrection. That was mythology. Jesus' great contribution was his ethical insights, the acme of which was the Beatitudes found at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. However, this discourse contains the unique revelation of the person of Jesus Christ that frontally contradicts these placid claims. These are not the words of a first century Mr. Rogers, but of an individual who is declaring the eternal fate of every man, woman, and child on the planet. He is pronouncing that those who are persecuted for his sake will be blessed by the Father. And those who reject his message will be forever cursed. Those who are persecuted for his sake will be blessed by the Father. Those who reject his message will be forever cursed. Not exactly a benign children's story from the mouth of some well-meaning Sunday school volunteer. Look at the climax of the sermon. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. This is not a pleasant sermon on morality. Jesus' words were alarming and strong. He was telling his listeners that there was no wall separating works and faith. His kingdom requires both obedience and a personal relationship with the Father. To reject this would result in eternal lostness. So much for being nice. Woo! Mm. Mm-hmm. So there you have it. Mm. According to the commentary by R.C. Sproul and Robert Wolgemuth. R.C. Sproul being a professor at a theological seminary and was an author of many books on the Bible and Christian doctrine. And Robert Wolgemuth is a popular lay Bible teacher, speaker, and best-selling author. Uh, he's taught the material in What's in the Bible on Sunday school classes for over 30 years. And but then when was this book written? In the year 2000. 23 years ago. So maybe he's been teaching for 50 years now, unless he's dead. Mm. Woo! What else do I have here? Oh, I could go on. I've got some other interesting books, but I'm getting a better idea of the Gospels in a background. What was it like in the first century BC and AD? That range in Southwest Asia. It's not too far south. It's kind of south of hmm, south of what? What's above it? If you go directly north from Israel, you might end up in Russia after it's 1,000 miles. There's Turkey. There's the Caucasians, but then south of Israel, isn't there Arabia roughly? So what isn't Arabia considered Southwest Asia? Well, Israel's considered in and around the Middle East, but I was listening to a podcast with a scholar that considers the Middle East Southwest Asia. Oh, here's that bookmark that I kind of lost. I could put it in. Matthew. Hmm. Chapter. Yeah, right around here. Maybe just kind of slides away. Uh, so I will end this session, this meditation on the fifth chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew. I guess it covers what they call the Beatitudes, as in blessed are blah blah blah, but it goes a little bit beyond that. Mm. So that we can be meditating more on that, because that's the meat of the teachings of Jesus, of the maybe they're not directly from Jesus, but maybe they're interpreting they're interpreting what he considered to be the essence of, of his way of his philosophy, or his Judaism, as given to him by his father. Who was his father? His father, as in his guru. Guru. Maybe he had a guru, and he called his guru father, Baba. Uh, maybe some gurus are referred to as fathers. Hmm. We'll have to think about this. Oh, I have a message from a friend. Oh, King James Bible. Here you go. Distraction free. King James Bible, the King James. Here you go. Mm. So we can use this book or this way of reading. Mm, 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 mm. So King James Bible, there's the Old Testament, there's the New Testament. So I'm in Matthew, so I have to do is tap on this and tap on that, and there you go. Wow. I didn't have I don't have to use my Kindle. Oh, okay. I see that there are some italicized words. I noticed that in the written book, the paperback version. I saw, for example, here. Can you see that highlighted? Hmm. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Isn't that one similar to verse 6? Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness. Somewhat, maybe related. Oh, but look, verse 11, the R is not italicized. But man is, blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you. Oh, and you is italicized and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is, the italicized is, your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Mm. So thank you, Rami. Let's see. Hmm. I can go copying and oh, you know what? I can go to YouTube and paste it in the chat. There we go. Then I can also paste it in my notes. Let's see. Let's see. Hmm. Let's see. I will just. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, so. Mm, 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 mm. And then there's another one. Distraction free. Oops. Let's see if I go to Zoom. Where's Zoom? Where's my Zoom? Here I am. And then I wonder if I go like this and oops. I wonder if I go like this and then paste this. Where I go? Let's see. Let's find out. Mark. Also, so if I go type Matthew Thew, go Matthew. Okay, copy. Mm, 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 Excellent. Okay, so there you go. Thank you, Rami, for being so kind and leading me to what is it like convenient links, a way of getting there without having to grab the book. But it's nice to grab it and open up to the page and be able to see the whole chapter in one page. It fits in one page amazingly, but then oh, print is so small. I do need a special glass. I think I got some at work. I'll see if I can bring them tomorrow or tonight. See if I can try them out. It's got one lens. I guess it's used for working on electronics, so you can wear it. Oh, I got one that's kind of straps along here. I'll try that one if I remember to bring that one. Okay, thank you. So uh, I hope you learned as much as I did or more. Uh, Maybe you learned things that I didn't learn, and I learned things you didn't learn. Okay, so who knows what we're learning? Is it possible to learn the same thing by looking at the same thing? Okay, so until next time, I'll say good day and